Tucker Carlson conducted an over 2-hour interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and at the tail end of that interview, he asked him,
So do you see the supernatural at work as you look out across what's happening in the world now? Do you see God at work? Do you ever think to yourself, these are forces that are not human?
Да нет, я, честно говоря, так не думаю. Я думаю о том, что
No, to be honest, I don't think so.
развивается вот по своим внутренним
My
законам.
opinion is that the development of the world community is in accordance with the inherent laws, and those laws are what they are.
Так было всегда в истории
I
человечества.
found his answer so insightful. Political history is very complicated, it's difficult, and it's long as Mr. Putin tried to sum things up. But I want to give you several related points to ponder that we know for sure. Welcome to Morning Tea. Hi, I'm Joanne, Jolee, and I'm so glad you're here. We're going to be talking about authority, nations, and government. Now, first, Tucker Carlson is a journalist, and Mr. Putin, for his own reasons, gave him the right to ask his question. And Tucker, having been afforded a significant opportunity for someone in his particular field, maintained a tone of respect, as he should have. Submit yourselves, for the Lord's sake, to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority, and show proper respect to everyone, love the family of believers, fear God, and honor the emperor. When Peter wrote this letter, it's likely that Nero was the emperor. Can you imagine that? Honor Nero. It may have seemed quite unimaginable to the persecuted believers of that day to hear that kind of instruction. But Mr. Putin spoke the truth. Authority is inherent. It's built into the fabric of creation, just like the physical laws like gravity that you can't defy, the moral laws, good and bad, they simply exist. So next, why should we respect the emperors, those who have the supreme authority? What is the purpose of the authorities? Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. And the governments are God's servants, for the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. So God established the nations and the authorities. And this goes back to the Tower of Babel. It was by God's hand that the people at that time were divided into those nations. And then those nations individually determined how they were going to set up and operate their own governments. God Most High separated the people on earth and gave each nation its land. He set up borders for the people. And from one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. So by design, civil governments have God's authority to organize for the purpose of suppressing evil, maintaining order and peace in our sinful world. And he raises up leaders as he wants to achieve his particular will. Note 1, submitting to authorities doesn't mean we have to agree with them. This is about obedience to the law. It's a physical thing. It does not involve our thought or our feelings, which government has no right to. And 2, since the governments are set up by the nations, they can be changed with majority votes, with elections. And 3, we never obey any authority that commands us to break God's laws. Peter and Paul are seen in civil disobedience, and we can go all the way back to Exodus and the midwives who refused to obey the Pharaoh when they were told to kill all the Hebrew boys. Even though perhaps their answer was deceptive, God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and they became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Note Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were very respectful to the king. We want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you have set up. They broke the law, and then they submitted to the punishment for breaking that law, no matter what the outcome was going to be. It's very helpful for me when I try to understand politics and world affairs and things that are going on to keep a big picture perspective. How important is this really? How does it all look to God? Before him, all the nations are as nothing. They are regarded by him as worthless and less than nothing. And he sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to naught and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground, than he blows on them and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. The governments are for God's use. Our trust should always be in God and not in the strength of our military, No king is saved by the size of his army. No warrior escapes by his great strength. A horse is a vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save. Now, in these days in our culture, we are pressured to choose a political side, the dividing line. Ultimately, we do have to select a party in order to speak with our vote, but there is no side for believers. We belong to the party of God's kingdom, and however it all turns out, whoever wins that seat is the supreme authority. In perspective, it doesn't matter, because we're going to continue on the same as before, honoring and respecting the president and all the authorities that come out from that office, continuing to live out our faith as peacefully as is possible. And try to stay out of denigrating our leaders and speaking bad of them. It's wrong, it's unseemly. And I just want to say that the founders of our nation honored God as we formed our government. We have prospered. We've been immensely blessed for these reasons, I believe. But it's not possible to mock God. And as a nation, we have forgotten him. We have tolerated degeneracy and rebellion and idolatry, and we really have cause for concern, because the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. So pray for our leaders. Choose prayerfully and wisely leaders who will honor God with their policies. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have any thoughts on this? Please write your comments below. I'd love to see them. I'm here every week. Don't go without subscribing, and remember to look for the blessings. They are all around you. Bye-bye.